Hey everyone, it's Alex, and today I'm here with my first tag video in like the longest of times. I don't know how many years it's been since I filmed a tag video. So, interesting experience for me. And also my cats are fighting over there, so we're just gonna continue on. This is the ratings and reviews tag. The original was posted by Gunpowder Fiction and Plot last December, I believe. I wasn't tagged by anyone, nor do I actually know anyone who's done this tag. I literally just went on, they're fine. I literally just went on YouTube and was like looking for various booktube tags and came across this one and thought it was the most interesting that I'd seen in the 5 minutes I spent searching. So we're gonna do it and hopefully get through the video before the cats murder each other. They're trying so hard. The first question, well, not question, but the first point is to tag people. So I'm not going to, because to be honest, I don't know who even watches my videos anymore. Not many people. I'm still getting back into the swing of things, and I'm just gonna say if you're watching this and want to do this tag, I think it's a really interesting tag, so you should go ahead and do it and just say I tagged you, because it's close enough. But I'm not gonna call out specific people, because I feel like that's weird when I don't even know who's like watching this video at this point. But getting into the real question, I'm looking over here because that's where my computer is. The second question after the tagging people, how do you know you finished a good book? Is it a thinking or a feeling response? And for me, it is 100% a feeling response. Like, it doesn't matter what the book did, the characters were like anything that I analyze after the fact, or even while I'm reading, doesn't matter. It's how the book made me feel. Like, if I read a 5-star book, I have that feeling, you know, I'm not sitting here thinking, was that 4 stars? Was that 5 stars? It's like, no, like I feel that like absolute adoration of the book. Like, oh my God, this was so wonderful. Like, I can't get over this book. Like, and I just know it was 5 stars. And like, I feel that way with all my ratings. Like, anything that I come up with in the review or in my thoughts or analysis is kind of like explaining that feeling. Like, the feeling, my overall rating and thoughts is what the analysis comes from. Like, it definitely goes in that direction for me. Like, I feel the book was amazing, so let's explain how amazing the book was. It's not me sitting there analyzing the book and being like, well, the characters were good, the plot was good, this was good, so it must have been a good book. It's definitely feelings first, and then I analyze why I felt that way. Question 3, if my computer wouldn't turn off on me. When you begin to form your review rating, what is the first question you ask yourself? My first question is always going to be, why do I feel this way? What was the biggest thing for me about the book? You know, like, what is the first thing I think about when it comes to this book? Is it how amazing the characters were? Is it how invested I was in the characters? That's great. That's kind of how I start my review. Is the first thing I think of the terrible writing, or these really, like, I have a list of pet peeves? Is that the first thing I'm thinking about? Because then it clearly wasn't a good book, you know? Like, but that's always my first question is, what is the first thing I think about when it comes to this book? And then the rest of the review kind of goes from there. It's like, why do I feel the way that I feel? That's kind of what my review is. It's just me, like, I feel an emotion. Let me explain that emotion and why I feel that way. So yeah, that was kind of the same as the first question at the end there. I should plan these. Question 4, do you do star ratings, and why or why not? I do. I like star ratings because I feel like it's a very easy way for me to just put books in like very basic categories of enjoyment levels. I don't do half stars or anything. It's just like those 5 levels of enjoyment. And it's just like a really easy way for me to like categorize something and be like, oh, this was 5 stars. This was amazing. This was 2 stars. I didn't like it. You know, like, I find it helpful. It's definitely not like the most useful tool for recommending books. Like, definitely my thoughts on a book in my review are more useful than the rating, but I do find the rating to be like a very simplistic way to do it. And I never used to rate books like that before Goodreads. When I was writing in my journal, my reading journal that I've had since I was like 14, I always rated books by like good or bad. Like that was how I rated things in my reading journal, and how I still do. Like I just kept track of like the books that I read and like, was it positive or negative? And that was all. But I do like the 5-star a little better, because it does like help me differentiate between like, this was a terrible book and this was like a book I didn't like, you know, because I feel like that's important. But like 5 stars is just like, I like it. It's one of those things I never would have like started doing on my own without Goodreads, but I really like it. And then going off of that question, explain your star rating system. What does a good book get in your star rating system? And etc. So again, like I said, I do the basic 5 stars. I only hit on those. 5 stars is an amazing book for me. I kind of leave 5 stars for like those special standout books, you know? Like if it's 5 stars, it was a favorite. 4 stars is like a great book for me. Like this was great. 3 stars is like it was good or decent or fine. 2 stars is I actively disliked it. And then 1 star means I really hated it. And again, like the 5-star rating, I save 1 star for those like truly spectacularly terrible books. Like not just I thought this was bad, but I thought it was like atrociously bad. Let's talk about it for 20 minutes because I need to rant bad. You know, like I kind of like save the outliers for something special. Then the second part of that is your star rating consistent? Are all of your 5-star books better than all of your 4-star books? Not forever. Because when I started on Goodreads, I didn't have like a set system. I was just like, oh, this book is good, let's give it 5 stars, because I didn't like think about it deeper than that. So like there are definitely like much older books that I rated differently, but I think for pretty much the length of time that I've had this YouTube channel, I think I've been fairly consistent for me. I think if I went through like the past 5 or 6 years and looked at all my ratings, like I think every 5-star book that I'd read would be better than every 4-star book that I'd read. To me, anyway. Question 5. Do you believe every book has its perfect reader? And does this contradict the idea that a book can be bad? I'm trying to think how to like say the things that I'm feeling here. I think statistically speaking, there are billions of people on this earth. Every book is likely to have at least one person that will enjoy it. Would I call that like its perfect reader? I don't know, but I do think just like statistically speaking, no matter what a book is, what it's doing, there's probably at least one person out there who would like it if they read it. Do I think a book can be bad? I think art is subjective and books are art. So inherently, books are subjective. So I can't be like, objectively, this book is bad. I don't think objectively any books are bad. But I do think there are books that the vast majority of the population dislikes. If that's a thing. I don't think anything's objectively bad. I think there are plenty of books I think are bad. I think there are plenty of books the majority of people think are bad. But I don't think that makes it like objectively bad. I think it just means I don't know what it means. But no, I don't think any book is objectively bad. I just think there are plenty of books that are not great. Through that same logic, I also don't think any book is objectively good, you know? Like, it's all subjective. So it's like, I don't know. It's weird. Like, it's like I can't call a book like bad. I wouldn't be like, oh, that's a bad book. I could be like, oh, I think that book is absolute trash. I think it's bad, but I don't think it is a bad book, if that distinction makes sense. Question 6 is, what book that you hated have you recommended? I kind of have 2 answers here, because one is like a real answer and then one is like less real. The Pleasures of Men by Kate Williams is the worst book I've ever read. I hate that book so much, and every time I talk about it, I'm like, please read this book. Please someone read this book and talk to me about it, because I don't understand it as a book. I don't. Like, but like, I feel like that doesn't count, because like, I am telling people to read it, but I'm not really recommending it as like a book, you know? I'm saying read it because it's so bad. I want someone else to be in pain with me, and just to like also like validate me, you know, like that's what I want. Also, I looked it up on Goodreads and everyone hates that book. Like that book has no positive ratings. Because at a point I was looking up the lowest rated books on my TBR, and the way I was doing that included some books I'd read, and The Pleasures of Men was up there. So I'm not alone, but I do just like, I just want people to talk about it because, like, I don't know, that book, like, did something to me. Like, it didn't feel like a book. Like, there are definitely books I've hated more than that book, but I do think that was the worst one I've ever read. Yeah, so there's that one. And then the other one that I think is more of a real answer, The View from the Cheap Seats by Neil Gaiman. It's like a collection of his nonfiction, which, to say I hated that book is strong. I gave it 2 stars. I didn't enjoy it. But it's one of those books that I feel like there is an audience for. It's just, I would recommend that book to people who are Neil Gaiman fans, first of all, because I think you kind of would have to be a Neil Gaiman fan to really appreciate that book. And second, not to read it cover to cover, because it's just like a collection of his essays and articles and such. And I think because there's such a wide spectrum of topics and the way he discusses those topics, I don't think there's many people who would enjoy that entire book, you know? I don't think many people would be there for every article. And I think if you went through that and you were already a fan and you only picked out the topics and the articles that were interesting to you, I think you would really enjoy that book. But I didn't like it. So I think that is like the real answer there of like a book I think some people would like that I didn't. Question 7. What makes a book good, bad, or great by your evaluation? That's just how it makes me feel. I just feel that it's good. Like, the more a book makes me feel, like, the more emotion, the more, like, breathtaking I find it, the better it is, you know? Like, I want a book that can make me feel emotion. Like, there are other things that matter, you know? Like, the characters have to be great, the story has to be there, like, the writing has to be good. But at the end of the day, it has to make me feel emotion. And I always go back to like P.S. I Love You by Cecelia Ahern, because I don't think the characters are well done in that book. And I don't think the writing is very good. But I will cry through like half of that. And that's why I love that book so much. Like why I can just go back to it, because it makes me feel things. And at the end of the day, the more I feel like emotionally, the more a book makes me feel, the more I'm going to like it. And everything else kind of just supports that, you know? Like the better the writing is, the better the story is, the more emotions I'm going to feel there. Question 8. When evaluating the quality of a book, do you have specific criteria or aspects of the book, such as character development, that you consider? Does this change if you are writing an in-depth review versus thinking about the book for enjoyment? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say I don't look for specific things, because if I do look at my reviews, I talk about different things in different reviews based on what I thought about the book, you know? Like, not good or bad, but just, like, the things that stood out to me in a book. Like, if the characters were really good or really bad, I'm gonna talk about that. If the story was really good or really bad, if it, like, whatever it did that was kind of, like, an outlier, I'm gonna talk about that. And I think how I rate a book is all down to feeling. And my reviews are just kind of like explaining that feeling. So I don't think there's anything specific that I'm looking for or like a checklist or anything. I think it's just like what stood out in different books is basically what I'm going to talk about, good or bad. Question 9, do you consider star ratings or average ratings when choosing books to read/add to your TBR? I don't really. If someone is talking about a book and they're like, oh, I gave this 5 stars, this was an amazing book, I might add that to my TBR. Like if people I am listening to on Booktube or reading reviews by, if they talk like about a book and they're like, oh my god, this was so good, I love this, it was fantastic, 5 stars, read it, I might be like, sure, I'll read that, sounds good. I say that like it takes that much to convince me to read a book, when it really doesn't. But if people give a book a bad review, or if it has like a really bad average rating on Goodreads or something, like if it has like a 2.8 star average rating on Goodreads and I was kind of interested in it and wanted to read it, that's not going to talk me out of a book. Like negative reviews or ratings will pretty much never talk me out of a book, because again, like, everything is subjective, and just because a lot of people thought it was trash doesn't mean I'm gonna think it was trash. Like, it does sort of tip the scales in the favor of, like, if I know 10 people and they all thought it sucked, like, I will probably also think it sucked, but there was something that interested me about that book. So I might like it, and I want to be open to that possibility. So negative reviews won't talk me out of reading something, but like positive reviews will very easily talk me into reading something. Question 10. Who on Booktube does reliable and interesting reviews of books that you know you can use to decide if a book is for you or not? And what makes their reviews so good? This is the hardest question for me, because I have been so inactive on Booktube recently, and like I don't want to like not say people who I really liked, so I did come up with a short list just of like people who stood out to me after being so distant for like the past 2 years. The first is Bookish. I'll link them all down below. Brian from Bookish, the way he talks about books is so fascinating and just so like well-rounded and great, and like I feel like I understand things when he's talking about books. Like, I feel like I get like a good picture of the book. I love the way he talks about books. And there's also Snyder B. Books. She reads a lot of romance and thrillers mostly. I'm mostly there for the thrillers. But like whenever she talks about the books and whenever I comment on her videos and we talk, I always get the vibe that like she knows when to be like, I really love this book, but you probably shouldn't read it, which like doesn't always talk me out of reading it, but it is just like, I think she understands when there are things she likes that wouldn't work for other people, and I really like that about a reviewer, because it's like, because I try to do that in my reviews too, of like, I didn't like this, but if you like XYZ, you would probably enjoy it more. Or, I like this, but like, I like painfully slow books, so other people probably wouldn't like the characters just sit here doing nothing for 400 pages. And that's why I really like her. And then I also have Book Zealots and Abbey of Pelennor on here. They both also do great in-depth reviews. I'll link all 4 people down below. But yeah, 4 people who do great reviews. I don't know exactly what makes their reviews good other than I like them. I like hearing people talk about books. I just feel like when they do book reviews, I kind of get an idea of what the book is and kind of like the highlights from the book, like not highlights from the plot, but like from their experience from the book, like what mattered to them and kind of like what mattered in the book, if that makes sense. But I just feel like I kind of get a good concept of what I'm going into whenever I listen to any of them talk about a book, which is good. Number 11, do those booktubers use different language than you to evaluate and review the overall quality of a book? Probably. I don't know. Like, I'm sure they do. Like, I just sit here repeating myself for 20 minutes in reviews, and that's why my review videos get so long. I don't have a good answer here. I don't know. I'm sure they do. Let's just say yes. It didn't ask what the language they use is. It was just a yes or no question, so my answer is yes, they use different language. And that concludes the video. Not tagging anyone, but I will link everybody down below. Let's just say I tag everyone that I mentioned. There's that. So I tag all 4 people I mentioned, and also anyone else who might want to do this, because I feel like it's interesting. I do want to do like a full video about how I rate books, like an in-depth, well, this was kind of it, but like more in-depth, more like whatever, I don't know. I just think it's an interesting topic, and I think it matters when you do a lot of reviews and you're talking a lot about like your ratings and opinions. But yeah, that was this video. Comment down below if you have any thoughts. Let me know how you rate books, if you're like different than me in any ways, because that's always interesting. And as always, thank y'all so much for watching, and I will see y'all again soon.